So as we know, the 2025 AFL trade period, free agency, and the whole entire off-season is kind of following in the footsteps of 2024 and is shaping up to be one of the craziest we've ever seen. We are genuinely starting to hear some names be thrown around that you would never even have heard of, freaking Zach Merritt. Some of the news with him coming out as of late, that there could be some trade news potentially going on there. You know, earlier on you had Oscar Allen and him being linked to Brisbane very, very early on, which I think surprised a lot of people. I wouldn't even be surprised if freaking Johnny Sins was theorized to be going to the Collingwood Football Club next year. You are starting to see a ton of different players, just as the weeks go, continuously be linked to club after club. And look, the West Coast Eagles are probably the club who almost need to have the most important off-season, just because of how bad 2025 was for them. Again, I don't think we should sugarcoat it here with saying that, West Coast had one of the worst seasons in AFL history in 2025. Watching some of the games that I saw, I wasn't even a West Coast fan, and I genuinely wanted to go over to the Balti Bridge and do a freaking backflip somersault off that shit, just because of how bad the footy was that was being played. And it's the reality is as well, the Eagles' best and fairest just happened, and the two players who finished first and fourth in their best and fairest weren't even on their team last year. They were free agents that they were able to get. So imagine if they didn't get Liam Baker and Jack Graham, even more how worse their season could have unfolded. So it just shows you that bringing those two guys in were massively influential, and I think I won't say helped an extreme amount, but they definitely helped a self-destruction which could have been a lot worse. So I definitely do think it is absolutely no secret that they should be going into the 2025 trade period and free agency with some vengeance. They should be going in saying and putting their foot down and saying, look, we had one of the worst seasons of all time. We cannot repeat that. We need to go out there and get a couple of players. And yeah, they've been linked to some big names, of course. There are a ton of big names that the Eagles have been linked to. Most of them they've struck out on, for example, Chad Warner and whatnot. But there are some other names too that I think they really need to start focusing on, because as we know with football clubs, it's not always the big names that can make a team and that can change a team. Sometimes bringing in some very minor role players here and there can very well help them. And there's actually a delisted free agent right now who was recently just delisted from his team, who the Eagles should 100% go and sign. Again, I think there will be some teams who are interested in this guy, but the reality is that the man I'm about to talk about right now should not have been delisted. And in the limited footy that he has shown that he could be a very, very solid role-playing backman in the AFL. And that does, of course, happen to be Jacob Blight from the Richmond Football Club. There is a report here by John Ralph where it actually says that Jacob Blight would consider himself stiff to be delisted. Not offered a deal alongside Kaczynski. He's got a big tank. He can play forward, back, and ruck. Would be likely to get another chance, but no obvious suitors yet. Again, that was actually something he said about a week ago, but since he said that, which was very shortly after he was delisted, there have been a couple teams that have been linked to Jacob Blight on social media and with different rumours out there. I think Sydney have been a big one who have been linked to him so far. They're actually looking to add some backline support. GWS, I think, have been linked as well. They lost a ton of backmen last season, losing Harry Perryman, Isaac Cumming, and even Peatling, who played a tiny bit of football there as well. I think there'll be a team interested in him. But West Coast, I really do think they need to bring in some backmen in this free agency and trade period, because I genuinely think they changed key defenders more times this year than what a number one cheerleader would do with boyfriends in an American high school. That's how many rotations there were, so many changes, and so many non-stability. Because of that, it just was a mess. And their backline, I think, as soon as Jeremy McGovern went down, was something that didn't do well at all. But again, they are trying to change that. We know at the time of making this video, they are really, really interested in Brendan Starcevic. By the time this video comes out, he may have actually officially nominated them, which would be massive for them. Again, he's had his injuries and he's had a couple of different things wrong with him, as the year has gone on. But he would be an elite halfback as far as West Coast were concerned. Like, I don't think himself could obviously change the team and everything that's been going on with them. But I think if you were to bring not only Brendan Starcevic into the team, but bring, as I just mentioned, a couple of those role players in, one like a Jacob Blight, you could be starting to see some improvement there. Like, I'm looking at West Coast backline right now in the last game that they had in the year, and it is like making my eyes nearly bleed. It is that bad. I'm looking at Sandy Brock playing full back for them, Rhett Bazzo as their back pocket on here, Brady Shue as the other back pocket. You got Luca Grego, who I think this might have been his debut game as the halfback. Ruben Jinby is listed as a halfback on here, but he is a key defender. And then obviously Liam Baker, who was playing midfield, but their backline was getting destroyed that bad that he actually had to go down and play a lot of time there. So you look at that backline and it is absolutely shocking. Like, again, I don't even know how to react to it. Like, I live on a split level house and I've got a balcony over there, and reading this backline, it makes me want to do a freaking backflip and land on a plant that I've got on the lower level, because holy shit, this is bad. But as I just said, there are some minor changes you can make. We know they're going to have pick 1. I believe they're going to have pick 2, which are going to get compensation back for Oscar Allen. I don't think they're going to lose that for Brendan Starcevic. I think they're going to get an exception. I don't know. They've asked for an assistant package. I was under the impression the AFL were going to deny the assistant package, but meet them in the middle and say, we'll give you pick 2 for Allen, and you can still keep and bring in Brendan Starcevic without affecting that compensation. Because obviously, if they lose Allen, get pick 2, and then bring in Brendan Starcevic, that pick 2 will be voided, and they won't be getting that. Quick little summary. But yeah, they need to bring in some backmen here. Starcevic would be a great halfback addition. Obviously, Jacob Blight would be an incredibly good key defender for them. And I think they're going to go out and maybe draft another one as well. Now, look, some of you guys might be sitting there at home and thinking, why are you making a video on a delisted player right now who got delisted from the team, who's 17th? Isn't that a little bit silly? Like, he can't be that good if he got delisted. And look, I completely disagree. I think Jacob Blight joined a really, really unfortunate situation where he joined a team in Richmond who have the worst and youngest and most inexperienced forward line in the game. They've got a bottom 3 midfield in the game and probably a bottom 2, bench in the game as well. But their backline, according to a lot of the data out there, is actually a top 8 backline in the league. Like, we got to remember, the reason Richmond were able to win 5 games is because of their incredible backline. They had Ben Miller, Nick Floston dominating all year down there. Again, I know they had 5th most points scored on them in the league, but that's not their fault. That's because their midfield got constantly killed and the ball was down there the whole entire game. With any midfield getting killed like that, they probably should have been the 1st most points scored against. But the thing is, Richmond had so many elite key defenders like Ben Miller, Tyler Young, who came out of nowhere, who the Eagles are also interested in. Obviously, Nathan Broad, Nick Floston can play those roles as well. A couple other guys, Josh Gibcus is there. Noah Bolter played a bit there as well. He'll bounce back next year too. Campbell Gray showed a lot of really good signs. They just didn't have any room for key defenders on their team, especially those who weren't playing. So they kind of had to bite the bullet and move on from one or two. They might be obviously losing a Tyler Young at free agency. We don't know yet. But then the other one, they just had to bite the bullet and say, look, Blight, you can just move on. We can't fit you in the team. And that's just what's happened, unfortunately. Is Jacob Blight, who's still so young, didn't get to show what he can do because Richmond, their only good thing was their backline. So he had to play a lot of ruck and a lot of forward as well, which I don't believe he'd ever played. And he actually did pretty decent in those roles and was very unlucky not to get a consistent gig. So West Coast would be silly not to take a fly on a guy like Jacob Blight, who I think would automatically be in their best team quite easily. He'd be finally a very cheap and reliable backman that you can bring in. And it just makes the most amount of sense. These are the little things that you can do to slightly improve your team. And I think that is what they're going to be overall trying to do. So don't be surprised if they don't just stop at Starcevic and we see some guys like Jacob Blight get brought in as the off-season, of course, does unfold. But again, I'd very much like to hear all of your thoughts and opinions on this in the comment section down below. Should the Eagles go for Jacob Blight or should they not? I'd very much like to know. Of course, subscribe to the channel for all latest sports content and news. My gaming/movie channel, go subscribe to that, which will be linked down below, as well as my Instagram. Go give that a follow. Also going to be getting a link down below as well. But yeah, as I was saying, please make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and comment. And I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.